Hello and welcome back to this third day of the 6 Secrets of Success, brought to you by the Young Business Creators Challenge. Day 3 is all about how to get the un-gettable, how to reach the unreachable, how to hear yes when others hear no, how to hear you're in when others get told not today. How to achieve all this? It's in the power of writing brilliant messages. A brilliant message could mean a knock-them-dead college application essay or personal statement that gets you into the university of your dreams. It could mean the perfect email asking someone for something. For example, to earn time with a valuable mentor. See yesterday's lesson for more on the importance of finding great mentors. Brilliant messages could even mean a letter to a star who you've been a huge fan of for years that actually gets them to reply. If you can train yourself to write well, you have a secret and massive advantage when it comes to all sorts of things, from applying for competitive university or college places, landing internship or job opportunities you didn't think were possible, or simply just going through life, getting people to give you what you want more easily. Much of what I'm going to talk about today in the context of messages applies to other forms of writing too. I could, for example, have chosen to talk about my framework for a great academic essay, my strategies for a winning CV or resume, or the techniques I use to coach university candidates so that they can craft the perfect personal statement that unlocks places on even those most sought after of courses. But today I'm going to focus on writing messages, emails, and letters. Now, I've written a lot of messages over the years, and to be honest, a lot of them stank. But as I started to get good, I found that I developed a pretty serious knack for writing messages that sometimes got some pretty unbelievable results. I think the secret was a combination of the craft of writing, which I've dedicated much of the last 10 years to studying and perfecting, and combining that with the psychology of how to give other people what they want. Boiling it all down, I think there are 3 golden rules you should follow if you want to write brilliant messages. And it's those 3 rules I'm going to teach you today. So what are the 3 golden rules for a brilliant message? Well, number 1, make it pleasant to read. Number 2, make it easy to action. And number 3, put them first. Put your recipient first. In order to teach you these rules, I've decided to do something which, I'll be honest, is going to be a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to go back to the emails which I wrote when I was a student 10 years ago and find some examples of emails that are not good. We're going to unpack together why they're not good, and we'll edit them in real time to put them right. So, for my first example, I've taken a relatively simple email to a college maintenance team, and it's a request that they come and fix the broadband socket in my room at college. Here's what I said. Dear Sir or Madam, the telephone socket in my room has no high bandwidth computer connection, although there is clearly a space where it should be. I live at 66 Jesus Lane, room 4, Christ College owned accommodation. Please advise. Many thanks, William Wadsworth. This message immediately fails rule 1. It's not pleasant to read. If we're honest, I sound like a bit of a Class A prat here. I don't know what I was thinking with this kind of weirdly formal tone. Maybe I thought they were more likely to take me seriously and do the work for me or something. I don't know. Whatever I was thinking, it sounds awful. And guess what? When I looked back to see what response this message had got, I saw that it went unanswered. No great surprise there. Presumably I had to go and waste more time calling round or something to get the problem sorted. Okay, let's see what we could have done to this email to make it do its job. For a start, this introduction is needlessly formal. There's no need to write like this unless it's a formal job application. Let's fix that. I think a simple hi will do. Okay, while we're at it, I notice I've also made a spelling error, which honestly is just inexcusable in the days of the spell checker. I actually use Grammarly as a rather beefed up version of Microsoft Spelling and Grammar Check because I find it catches more mistakes. So let me just come in here and I'll accept Grammarly's suggested edit. But the main issue with this email, as we said, it's kind of weirdly formal, and it's also coming across as almost accusatory and as though I'm really irritable about the whole thing. Well, I am irritable, but also there's no need to put that kind of emotion into an email. It doesn't help me. All right, let's clean that up. I don't like please advise. I'm just going to say what the problem is. Alright, I'm starting to sound like the sort of guy you'd actually want to help out now. That's good. I've also failed rule 2 here though. This email is not easy to action. Let's just put ourselves in the mindset of the maintenance guy or girl who's receiving this email for a second. Now, they are happy when there are no outstanding jobs to do. So it's in their interests to action this job as quickly and easily as possible and get it off their to-do list. So what are the next steps they need to take in order to clear the job? Well, they're going to need to decide how to prioritise my request against all their other tasks. Am I going in at the top of the list or right at the very bottom? That's not something I have complete control over, but maybe I can try and add something to help them justify them putting me nearer the top. Let's have a go. Okay, I think that's going to help. Now, to actually come and do the repair, they're going to need to know, 1, where I live. Well, so far so good, I've got that. But 2, they're also going to need to agree a time with me to come and visit. Normally, agreeing appointment times often ends up taking several emails of back and forth communication, but I can cut all of that out by using something called the wide-narrow technique, which is where I offer a wide range of times, but then also give a narrow preference within that range that will be particularly convenient for me. Let me show you how it works by using that technique here. Okay, so you see how the wide-narrow technique works. After 4 p.m. is perhaps particularly convenient for me. That's the narrow bit. But ultimately, I'm the one that's asking for something here, and I can and should show flexibility on times. That's the wide bit. Offering that flexibility helps me maximise the chance that they can fit me in sooner, rather than simply pushing me off to next week. And as a nice bonus, when I show that flexibility, I also come across as being more polite and respectful, again, making me sound like a decent human and the sort of person you'd want to help out with his problems. So, let's take a look at the whole thing. Hi, I'm hoping you can help me. There is no broadband connection in my room because the socket seems to be missing its broadband adapter. I have a major assignment due over the next couple of weeks, and I'm really struggling to do the research without internet access. I live at 66 Jesus Lane, room 4, Christ's College owned accommodation. I'm available anytime on Thursday or Friday afternoons, especially after 4 p.m. I'm just going to add something to close it out with. I'll let my email signature give my full name. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this now. It's crisp, polite, to the point. If I'd written this first time, I reckon my problem would have been sorted much sooner. Let's take one more example, and it's going to be a bigger email. The stakes are getting higher. This is no routine maintenance issue anymore, because here I'm trying to earn a meeting with a potential mentor, and hopefully to get myself a summer internship with him. To give you a little bit of context to this email, by now I was in my second year at university, and I got pretty interested in the idea of theatre producing. You may remember yesterday, day 2, I wrote to you about the importance of experiencing potential careers before making too big a commitment. Well, I was trying to follow that advice and trying to land some real-world theatre producing experience, partly to see if I liked it, and partly to start learning my craft as a theatre producer and get some good skills under my belt. Now, I'd been fortunate enough to get a mutual friend to recommend me to a well-respected London theatre producer, which is a great head start to any potential relationship. But now, the hard work was over to me. I had to write an email to this producer to try and fix a date for us to meet. Let's take a look. So, I've pulled this up, and the first thing you notice, it's long, and it's way too long. That means it's automatically failing rule 1. It's not easy to read, because you just take one look at the length of this thing and you get put off. It's also pretty obvious to me that it fails rule 2. It's much harder than it should be to put into action, to say yes to. My proposal for the meeting is so buried in all this fluff that I can barely make out what it is I'm actually asking him for. Let's start cleaning things up. I'm going to start with the end here. So I'm going to cut this whole paragraph. What I'm basically saying here is I've been too disorganised to get an additional reference in time. So what? I mean, he's already had one recommendation of me. I don't really need to witter on about more recommendations I feel I should have. It's just kind of getting in the way and diluting my point. Okay, now I need to clean up this invitation paragraph. Simplicity is going to be key here. And I'm going to try using the wide narrow technique again. So, how about... That's looking good. Notice how the wide narrow technique works again. The width, the flexibility all day, gives a really nice deference and respect to him and his schedule by giving him that flexibility to essentially meet whenever he wants. But it also makes it easier for him. If he is free at 4 p.m, all he needs to do is fire a one-word reply back that says yes, if that's all he wants to do. Notice also how I'm being respectful of where he wants to meet. I'm the one asking for the favour here, so I'm the one that should be flexible and bend over backwards to make the meeting work. Back when I was a strategy consultant, I used to get a lot of requests to go for coffee from students who themselves were wanting to be strategy consultants. They were wanting my advice on things like how to write a good application letter and how to prepare for interviews. Now, I loved giving this kind of advice, so I was always happy to say yes in principle. But given that scenario, I'm the one doing the favour, so the right thing to suggest is that if we're meeting for coffee, we meet near my office. Make it easy for me. I remember getting one request that proposed coffee somewhere that was halfway across town on a work day. And I kind of found myself thinking, why on earth would I spend my entire lunch break riding a London Underground train so I can do you a favour? I'm really keen to help here, but you've got to make it sufficiently easy for me to give that help. Otherwise I might not bother. So back to this message. I think this ending's getting a lot crisper. It's now much easier to say yes to, much easier to action. So we're starting to look good on rule 2. Things are also getting there on rule 1. It's getting easier to read just because it's getting shorter and punchier. There's still some work to do on length though. But first I want to come to rule 3, which is to put them first. Put your recipient first. This rule is absolutely key whenever you want something from someone. That might be mentoring or an internship opportunity, as in this example. Or, I don't know, maybe it's the opportunity to get featured in some way, perhaps getting an article of yours into a publication, or maybe even writing to a potential client to win some business, if you're starting to get a little bit entrepreneurial, something I'm going to talk much more about on day 6. Whatever it is you want, the first step to getting someone to say yes to your proposal is to stop making it about what you want, but rather start by focusing absolutely on what they want. To give you an example of how I use this in my own life, I run a pretty successful podcast, and when I'm reaching out to a potential guest to invite them to come and do an interview for the show, my opening gambit in my email is always 100% about their agenda. Hi John, I wanted to reach out to you about interviewing you on the Exam Study Expert podcast, because I've followed your work for several years, and I think my listener base in 150 plus countries would really enjoy hearing about your new book on productivity techniques. Now all that is not so subtle code for, come on the podcast, John, you'll get loads of free publicity for your book and sell loads of copies. I haven't mentioned the fact that I'm a huge fan. I haven't mentioned the fact that I really want to get him on the show because I think it would be great for our brand and credibility. Absolutely not. The focus is entirely on him and what he stands to gain from this interview. So here, I'm talking to a potential mentor. I need to start by thinking about what he wants. And what do mentors want? Well, as I was saying, sometimes it can be nice as a mentor simply to pass on a little advice. Good people ultimately find it rewarding to help others. But you've got to give any potential mentor the confidence that the help they're giving isn't going to be wasted. Mentors love to be part of success stories, but the flip side of that is that they're also very unlikely to give their time if you come across as a no-hoper. In other words, you've got to impress, you've got to be sharp, and that makes a mentor feel good about helping you, as it seems like you're more likely to succeed in your goals. Now, I've done a pretty reasonable job of writing about my credentials here. The Arts Theatre is a professional venue, and this mutual contact of ours is a professional director. So this is a pretty impressive gig for a student to be doing. I honestly don't know what this rubbish is about a funeral. That's a complete waste of space. That needs to go. Sounds like I should have just got more organised and sent this email to him yesterday. Okay, so getting back to what he wants, what I can offer him that he's going to be interested in. In this case, I don't think it's enough just to play to his desires to kind of be a nice guy and be helpful to a potential rising star, because I'm also angling for an internship, and that means he could end up investing weeks, maybe months of his time in me. I'm going to need to do much more to sell him on why that's in his interests and what he stands to gain from having me as an intern. One thing that's painfully obvious to me when I look back on this email is that I really haven't done my homework on this guy. I should at the very least have been looking up what shows he's got on at the moment. These days, it's pretty easy to do your homework on people by Googling them, and you can look up their news appearances, find a blog, a personal blog, or for a lot of business people, you can check their LinkedIn page, which may have details about current or recent projects. In the case of a professional theatre producer, if I just Googled this guy's name, Google would have brought straight up all the theatre industry press about the shows he's got coming up. So if I'd taken the time to do just that little bit of research, at one stroke I can make my opening line all about him and his priorities, while also helping my email stand out from the crowd by the fact that I've just gone the extra mile in the research I've done that a lot of people simply don't bother with. Let's have a go at an opening that incorporates all of that and says something really punchy about how I want to help him. Okay, this is starting to flow better. I think I can just clean up a little bit in the middle. If you've got a connection like this, as I was lucky enough to, that should be pretty high up in the email, or perhaps even in the subject line itself. I think in this case I'm going to put it in the subject line. All right. I kind of like all this, but it's too long. All right, let's take it from the top. It looks like this summer will be a busy one for your office, with Romeo and Juliet and the Pied Piper in production. Would there be opportunity for me to help share the workload as an intern? I'm an experienced Cambridge student producer, and I'm particularly strong on spreadsheets, digital marketing and social media, and the diplomacy and organisation needed to get people in the right place at the right time as part of a high-pressure production schedule. I'm a second-year student reading natural sciences at Christ's College, and I have a burning ambition to work as a theatre producer when I graduate. I've just finished producing Blah Blah at the Cambridge Arts Theatre, which was directed by a mutual contact of ours, Blah Blah, and she has very kindly put me in touch with you. I have attached my CV for your consideration, and will be available to help your team as an intern anytime throughout July and August. I understand that you'll be in Cambridge this Saturday, the 24th. Would you have time to meet for coffee near your college? I'm entirely flexible all day and could fit around your schedule. Perhaps late afternoon would be convenient, e.g. 4 p.m. Very much looking forward to hearing from you. And again, I'll let the email signature deal with my surname. Is it pleasant to read? Yes. Rule 1, check. Is it easy to action? Much more so. Rule 2, check. Does it put him first, prioritising what he might want? Yes. Rule 3, check. It's looking good. If you're wondering how all this panned out, even with my original slightly sucky email, I did actually manage to get the meeting and went on to be offered the internship. Even though the email I'd written wasn't great, I had a really nice recommendation from the mutual friend, which I think probably swung the deal for me. If I hadn't had that, I'd have had to rely on the strength of the email itself much more, and our new version here is far more likely to get the results I wanted, don't you think? Now, as a final thing, if this is a really high-stakes message or piece of writing, I might ask someone more experienced to check it over for me. Ideally, that would be someone with experience of the sort of thing I'm trying to write. Now, I've actually offered coaching on a one-to-one basis for high-stakes writing to students and young people like you for several years. And to this day, each week, I reserve a few hours to work with students one-on-one on high-stakes applications and letters, helping them choose the right structure, pick the best points to make, and fine-tune their language, and ultimately to get the results they want with their writing. I have most experience of helping students with CVs, resumes, and cover letters for competitive graduate jobs and internships, with personal statements for top British universities, and with high-stakes letters or introductions, such as this one here to a potential mentor. Please use the button below this video to book some time with me if you'd like my help with any of these writing tasks. So, to sum up, make it pleasant to read, make it easy to action, and put your recipient first, and you'll be well on the way to getting yourself yeses to your emails and applications, time after time. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 4. In the meantime, very best of luck with your next email, letter, or application. Thanks for watching.